Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. It's been a long time. It's good to see everybody. I'm Ron Luce. This is Nick Hudson. Nick, we got to preface to everybody that I dragged you into this tonight because I've been sitting around, I've been stewing on this Cubs team, and you took the hook, line, and sinker, my friend, and you're stuck on a show with me now on a Friday night. But happy Friday to you, my friend. Happy weekend to all those listening. Dude, how are you? It's been a hot minute. What's
Happy
new with
Friday,
you
man.
on the other side of the new year? It's 2026.
Other side of the new year. Happy New Year to you, man. Happy New Year to all of our listeners out there. Doing well, man. Actually, you didn't have to pull me in too hard because I've also been wanting to talk about this Cubs team. Been getting that itch as well, just a little bit, especially just baseball in general. Last night I was watching Marquee, the top 10, games of 2025. I'm missing baseball, but probably more pessimistic than I am an optimist tonight as we sit here on January 2nd, 2026. But, nonetheless, I'm excited to talk baseball with you, and I'm doing well.
Hell yeah, man. I feel that, dude. Like I'm trying to reminisce myself that it's summertime. So I'm gonna use my big Cubs paddle to pop this thing here.
Fuck yeah.
So hashtag, I guess, pop them, not crack them. I don't have a can, so I can't crack them. But we'll pop the beer lid off and a little rip here.
There we go.
And a salute as we get this the summer vibes going. Because Nick, just like you, I miss baseball. And I too am pessimistic about this Cubs team. And it's not necessarily one specific player. And that's kind of where I want to lead our discussion off tonight. But it's the cumulative thought of just like how the Cubs are going to approach this offseason. And for starters, I think everybody was really banking on the Cubs inking Tatsuya Imai. I think that was a huge, huge piece of this entire offseason in a lot of Cubs fans' minds, right? Like whether or not he's a front of the line starter, he's a 3-4 guy, what have you. I think every Cubs fan convinced themselves like it's Tatsuya Imai or bust when it comes to pitching. Well, he chooses the Astros. There's reports out there, again, not super credible sources per se, but reports nonetheless, that the Cubs had a chance to match the offer. They were originally the highest bidders until Houston came in. And ultimately, the Cubs kind of balked, more so at the high AAV than the term. They were actually willing to go up in term is the reported thing, which to me is kind of wild. I think the Cubs don't usually like term. So for them to kind of play on the other side of it, like, hey, we'll give you the extra year or two. We just don't want to pay you $21 million a year. We'd rather pay you like 15, 16 maybe a year, maybe even 14 million if they have it their way. So, Nick, I want to ask you, what is your personal kind of, I guess, reaction to the Imai thing? Because you mentioned it. Tyler called it.
Yep. Tyler called
it. Where he's going to go and just what's going to happen. Yep. So your initial reaction and kind of now that you've had some time to digest the signing, now that we're a few days removed, how are you feeling about the Cubs moving forward?
I'm on the same boat as you. It's not a specific player that gets me. And when it comes to pitching, Imai ended up being the guy that I was like, well, now you need to pivot to him because you missed out on Cease. You missed out on a couple bigger arms. I would have liked to see them put all their eggs in the basket, go in on Cease, because you were one game away, and not in your home ballpark because you didn't win the division. You're one game away from going to the dance there. And it's very frustrating to me because the higher AAV seems to be a very big sticking point for them. And we've seen it in past deals and past misses, right? It was interesting, though, like you said, that they would give him more of a term, especially as a pitcher, because we've seen that they don't like to do a lot of years on a pitcher. But I don't know, man. I just would like to see where they're going to go. Are they going to dink and dunk to try to piece together something at the top half of this rotation? Like, where do you go from here is kind of my question. Like, where do you pivot to? You're going to have to pivot to a trade now, most likely, is what you're going to have to do. And Joe Ryan's a guy that comes to my mind right off the bat. I would like to see that. Um, but there's other guys too. But it's just frustrating because with a season like last year, where I said it many times, I felt they caught lightning in a bottle. And I thought that it was just a year where guys were playing above their standards, everything was just going really well. Then you would think that they'd go, we lost Tucker. We need to fill that hole. And then we probably need to fill the hole of guys overperforming.
Mhm.
And even you can say that with the starting rotation. Michael Boyd, Colin Ray, those are guys that you didn't think would be doing as good and were very good pitchers. So I would have liked to see them go out and get that top line starter. Imai could have been, and he may be. It was just interesting to see how the market kind of reacted to him because it didn't seem like it was a very hot, like, it seemed more like hesitant. I don't know if you got that, but it felt more hesitancy than anything.
Definitely. And Lance Brodzowski brought this up, Marquee Sports Network analyst. He even said the same thing. He was like, man, this market just seemed very bearish on Imai, even though fans, I think, were very bullish on the idea of adding him. And he's not the biggest guy in the world. So you wonder, how does the velocity and things like that translate to the major leagues? I think there was a lot of questions, but like a willing bet that some teams were willing to make. And what I mean by that is like, you're willing to give the guy 14, 15, $16 million a year. Like that's still a lot of money you're investing in a guy who is largely a little bit of a question mark, even though he was dominant in the NPB. It makes you realize that like there was a lot of concern about what was to come with him. And I think to your point, Nick, I agree with you, right? Like I think the collective you of Cubs fans wanted this team to go all in on a big pitcher. And I think they tried. I legitimately do think they tried, but they didn't try hard enough to actually land the guy. And this is the consistent kind of feel that we get with this team. And this is how they've been operating really the last handful of years. And Nick, to channel our good friend, Mr. Juice, I'm going to put on the tinfoil hat take here really quick. And that the Cubs are operating ahead of everybody else in baseball when it comes to what happens post the inevitable strike in the near future. I think there's going to be a salary cap, and that's why the Cubs are willing to do lower AAV, more term than the other way around, because the Cubs are in a great spot. After this season, they have like next to no guaranteed money on the roster. If we're going by guaranteed money, so this doesn't include guys like arbitration eligible players, pre-arb guys, all those players, right? Just guaranteed contracts. The Cubs have like $30 million on the books, and 28 of it is the Dansby Swanson.
Yeah, Dansby.
That's a little bit of an exaggeration. Probably more like 35 million and 28 of it's the Dansby, because then it's a $7.5 million for Matone, who they just signed because he's a 2-year deal. Everybody else is on some kind of option where it's either mutual or club. There is no player options. And like they could go clean slate if they have to, assuming there is a potential cap that gets instituted baseball. So
exactly.
I really wonder, like, I really think that's how they're operating. So that's why they're, hey, we'll give you the 4 or 5 years, Imai, because your $14 million is for us is stomachable. But maybe the 21 is a little less because we're thinking by 2027, 2028, Michael Busch is going to be making a lot of money. Pete Crow Armstrong is going to be making a lot of money because these guys are going to go through arbitration. I think the next core of guys, like they know that there's going to be big years from some of these guys. I really think they look at the Tucker thing and say, Tucker helped unleash some guys this year, but a lot of these guys need to like kind of prove that they're the heart and soul, the meat and potatoes of the lineup.
Interesting.
And I wonder if that's how they're approaching free agency, is just like, hey, we kind of want to be able to go full slate because then we really can dictate who we can actually keep, who we can't keep. There's going to be teams doing freaking gymnastics when it comes to salaries if there's a cap instituted.
Yeah.
To the point where the Cubs could sit there and take advantage of those teams for pennies on the dollar.
It would flip. It would all flip around if that was.
It would.
I like that.
So again, super tinfoil hat theory. I don't know if they're thinking that far out, but Because I think it's consistent with what the Cubs have done recently. I don't think anybody's surprised. Now,
Yeah, that's true.
you mentioned, Nick, this team going out and potentially having the trade for a starting pitcher. And before we get into that, a couple quick notes here. Our good friend Darren, he says, with Hap, Nico say at the end of their deals, not the year to cheap out, but hey, it's the Cubs way. That it is. That is 100% true. My dad says here, give the front office some credit. They are not overpaying for anything prior to the strike. Again, are they truly thinking that far out? They could be.
They
If
might
any,
be.
I feel like it would be the Cubs. I really do. Like that.
Yeah, I mean it's only a year away. So
Yeah, like they strike me as that team where, like,
yeah.
again, Juice brought this up years ago as a tinfoil hat take that I think is truly coming to fruition 5+ years out. They knew this strike was coming and it was probably going to happen. And if you watch the way that they've transformed baseball, it's been with everything that the front office of MLB has been instituting, and that Theo Epstein and Jed are talking all the time. Jed's got the inside track. He's like, hey man, I'm just trying to get ahead of this. Like, what insight can you give me? Oh, we're doubles and triples are going to be hot again. Okay. Look how many guys in the Cubs lineup are, extra base threats, right?
True. It's a good point.
You think about just like the way that they constantly attack everything. You're like, they got to know something. And I wonder if this is another case with that. But speaking of those trade rumors here, Nick, I think about some of the pitchers they could go for. Mitch Keller was a hot name a year ago. He certainly is still an opportunity and an option here. I think to some of the Miami Marlins that could potentially be available, Sandy Alcantara, Edward Cabrera, who I think is a really hot name right now in the world of Cubs fandom. And then I think about other potential names. You mentioned Joe Ryan. I think that would be a great addition. Pablo Lopez, but it sounds like the Twins are going to hold on to their pieces, which is weird considering
it's really weird.
I don't know where that team is right now. I don't
I don't
fully
know
understand their direction.
I don't know why they're holding on to anyone.
But if the Cubs are going to make a trade, I feel like it's going to happen soon, because right now the only trade rumors we're hearing revolve one Nico Hoerner. So I want to get to this next point in our rundown here of where does, why do you think they're kicking the tires on Nico Hoerner? Is there something there? Is there an ulterior motive? Perhaps a tinfoil hat theory?
Okay.
What in your mind is the reason for shopping a second baseman who, in my opinion, has been worth every bit of the $12 million he's paid?
Yeah.
Why would they be shopping that guy? Do they think he's going to become more expensive and trying to get value now? What do you think the reasoning is behind the Nico Hoerner trade rumors?
I like to think that they're trying exactly what you just said. I think that they're trying to understand the value more than anything of what he's going to be worth, what he can get. Getting rid of a guy like that would be such a ginormous move. It wouldn't just be putting a hole in the roster. It would be gashing it, because he is a ball player, as you know. He doesn't just put up stats. He does things that are not on the baseball card that you can't see to win baseball games. And it's really rare to find a player like that. So if you're going to go trade him to plug that hole, I don't think there's anyone, in my opinion right now, I don't know anyone that you can just put in there and be like, yep, I'm comfortable. It's fine. Like I've heard Bo Bichette and things like, I want Nico Hoerner. I would rather have Nico Hoerner. So I like to think, and as you said, with the Cubs front office, and I have to agree with you, they do things almost differently in a very smart way. They're very strategic about what they do. They're just, we always playing devil's advocate here. We say, the bargain bin, and they do this and that and the other, but a lot of the things they do have worked, and they have worked well. But the thing is, with Nico Hoerner, I just can't imagine them getting rid of him this year and then finding a piece to fill that right away. Maybe I'm crazy, but Nico, we go, honestly.
I agree. I don't think that's crazy to feel the way that people feel about Nico Hoerner. I'm going to put on my tinfoil hat again really quick, and this is what it makes me wonder. There's the Cubs are in talks, quote unquote, right,
Talks.
with super a, a surprising number of like third base candidates, right? And there's been this like debate of what do they do with Matt Shaw, and Matt Shaw is still cost effective, and is he better suited for second base? And then you sit there and you wonder, like, are the Cubs willing to part ways with Nico Horner if they get a third baseman? Because the plan is to eventually pivot Matt Shaw to second. And then you also look at some of the talent pool that's coming, right? James Triantos is a second baseman by trade.
True.
They have a lot of that second base archetype in the system. And again, there is Bo Bichette on the market. If you really want to make a big splash and go sign that guy, he's willing to play second base. So if he's willing to play second and you're willing to pay him, you get a huge bat upgrade in your lineup,
Yeah.
even over Nico Horner to an extent. And yes, you lose some of that defense to your point, but I wonder if that's a trade-off that they're willing to make. And then again, it's super tinfoil hat, but I feel like Nico Horner, like his value always gets kicked around baseball. It feels like every
Yeah.
year. To be like, is 12 million like what we should be paying this guy? Should we be like trying to get him for less now and extend him even? Like, I wonder if they just do it partially just to gauge their own
Just to
value
gauge their
on
own
the player.
value.
If
That's
they're
what I felt like, is they're trying to gauge value. Yeah. I mean, I get your point, and it's a great tinfoil hat theory, especially with the Shaw. But if you ask me, like, where was your biggest hole last year, I would say offensively, it felt like third base. It just felt like that was how it was. Just
Yeah.
eyeball test, you know. I'd rather see them go and get a third baseman. Yes, Matt Shaw, you know, we have Matt Shaw, fine. It's just, I don't know. It's tricky, you know. It's a tricky thing. I honestly, if it's my world, I would trade Dansby. I'd move Nico over to second, and then, you know, Matt Shaw or shortstop. Matt Shaw goes to second. You get third baseman. That would be what I would do. I mean, Dansby just doesn't cut it for me. He doesn't bring the other factor that Nico Horner brings. So he really doesn't have the. I don't, you know, I go into these big slumps, but what else am I bringing? He's got really good defense, but Nico Horner's got that extra factor of just like he will get you a base hit when you need a base hit.
Mm-hmm. He has that clutch
huge.
Factor.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a huge factor that you can't just, you know, pick up off the street.
Definitely. And I think they realize that with Swanson, and maybe that's part of the reason that they're doing that too is, okay, we think Nico's completely worth it. Like there's nothing out here that's going to blow us away without just keeping Nico.
Sure.
Maybe then they see Matt Shaw as, hey, you've gotten a taste at the big league level. Maybe somebody will be just interested in you enough that we can get a starting pitcher for you. Maybe they're willing to do that. Maybe there is some of that in there as well. Maybe it is really just, are we upgrading second base or upgrading, quote unquote?
Yep.
Are we changing second base and getting rid of Nico Horner and signing a third baseman, Bregman, Okamoto, Okamoto, who I've got on our to-do list here in just a second? Or are you saying, hey, you know, Matt Shaw is not even involved in the future. We're still going to go get that third baseman. We're going to go trade for that starting pitcher and keep Nico.
Yeah.
And maybe that's some of it too, when it all is said
Possible.
and done.
I could see that too. Yeah, 100%.
Speaking of third baseman, Nick, I wanted to talk a little bit about Kazuma Okamoto here this evening.
Okamoto.
I want to talk about him because I feel like this guy has not been talked about almost at all in the world of Cubs. But his name keeps getting brought up in relation to the Cubs. Now, granted, it's like a 6 to 8 team list, depending on what time you catch the report. Toronto's included in that list. The Pittsburgh Pirates have been included in that list for pretty much all of the offseason. They've had a very active offseason by their standards. You know, there's rumors and reports that obviously the Cubs are getting involved. The Padres are getting involved.
Yankees.
And yeah, the Yankees maybe even. And then, of course, like there was Angels early, and then all of a sudden Angels fell off a cliff. They're like, no, there's no goddamn chance because they just bought out Rendon, and they're still paying a guy $38 million to not
That
play.
was sad. It was a sad organization.
Dude, they always find a way to screw everything up. It's so tragic too because I don't know. But yet you sit there and you look at that 2002 World Series and go, they didn't even really necessarily deserve to win that either, but they did. It's just the Angels, man. The Angels are going to angel. That's a real thing in the world of baseball. But nonetheless, I think Okamoto is a fascinating name. I'm going to call him Kazuma because I can say Kazuma a lot easier. I wonder if the Cubs are really interested because this is a guy that's an 882 OPS, 277 average guy. They like the high average bat. We've seen that before. He's got respectable power. Like it's not tragic power, but like it's, 15 to 25 power. And in a ballpark where if you can hit to left field, he's a right-handed hitter, looks good. He also can play, obviously plays third, but he can play a little first as well. So I wonder if there's like, well, we could put some of
Platoon.
him with Bush if it's a really bad matchup for Bush ever. It frees up the DH spot for Ballesteros. You can move Seiya around and do that depending on who your fourth outfielder is. Like there's a lot of versatility without totally blocking your young guys and seeing what you have in them. Seeing if Owen Casey's a piece of this future. Seeing if Ballesteros is a piece of this future. So I wonder if like this is to me like the perfect Cubs signing for a bat. It's not going to be as sexy as Tucker was a year ago. Granted, that was a trade, but like from a dollars and cents standpoint, it's going to be very comparable. Tucker made what, $17 million last season for the Cubs.
Yeah.
I think Kazuma comes in probably at or less that number.
14 or 15.
I would say probably 15, maybe 16.
15.
To me, that's a number, especially if he's 29. So maybe it's for 4 years, we'll call it 3 years. To me, that's a number the Cubs can stomach, even if there's a salary cap after 2026. Sure. And to me, he fits what they want to do. So I question why this guy hasn't gotten more run in, I guess, just the skeptic world of Cubs baseball, because I think the fit is there. And I would love to see the Cubs truly being at the table and being like, hey, man, you could go to the Pirates, who might win 85, 86, 87 games next year. Or you come to us and like, we just got done winning 90 games. Like, come be a part of this thing. You're still going to be a huge part of this, lineup. And we've improved our bullpen, and maybe you steal a couple extra games. It makes you wonder, like, would he sway a little bit toward the Cubs over maybe the Pirates, for example?
Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't know too much about him. You've educated me a bit about him, and I think that listening to your proposition, I think it could work well for the Cubs. And I think the only thing with the league, their hesitancy is it has to do a lot with coming from the MVP, not knowing how it's going to translate over. Maybe not knowing if he's going to have the same pop here as he does over there, or how it's going to be. Adjusting to big league pitching is hard enough, just from minors to majors. How is it from Japan to here? But I think he could play well because, and you mentioned off the air, Isaiah Paredes, that guy that pulls the ball. That's what you need from at Wrigley Field, is a hitter that will pull it into the left field. That could be great.
And I think too, like, to the Paredes point, like Paredes was such a pull hitter to the point where he can never put it in the gap. Like Kazuma can do that. Like he's absolutely a gap to gap kind of guy. He's got the slug. We've seen that. I think he would play well in Wrigley. And I think that bat, like the doubles number, I think for him would go up. He could still drive and runs that way. Like it doesn't always have to be the home run ball. I think back to, Ian Happ's kind of first real big breakout year, right? He had 17 homers, which was underwhelming, but he had like 40 doubles.
Yeah, that's right.
Like he'll take that, right? Like that's okay. And I think he's got that kind of ability. And if you got a couple of those guys in that lineup, with Bush continuing to show power, PCA continuing to show power, maybe Seiya Suzuki continuing to show power, I think there's room for that bat to where it makes sense. But speaking of other bats, we've talked a little bit about Bo Bichette. Alex Bregman is still out in this world. The Red Sox, supposedly, if you believe what you read, have the best offer out there for him. But it begs the question of just, again, where do the Cubs go from here? Because from a pitching standpoint, we talked about it already. I think this team is more likely to trade for a legitimate starting pitcher at this point than pay somebody. I think
Yeah.
they're willing to part ways with some assets in their pool. I also think there's a line of guys on the free agent market, Nick, that like would fit what the Cubs are okay with. I saw like Zach Littell's name was in that mix. That's one I could absolutely see them being cool with for like 2 to 3 years, like 10 million bucks. Like I think
Yeah.
that can get done. I think there's a couple of those type signings they could make. They wouldn't be the sexiest, but like they certainly improve the depth. I think there's that as well that they could turn to if the trade market even doesn't work. But when it comes to bats, I wonder. Darren says here, we are in a pickle. Use the Bucks on a stud starter. The money's gone. Trade talent to fill a hole in the offense. Trade holes with who's traded. 100%.
Great
You're
point.
never going to fully win. And Raz here says we have a low ranked farm system. Would teams even accept to trade with us? I think they would. I don't think the
You
farm
could
is
trade a ready MLB guy.
100%. And I
Yeah.
think too, like the Cubs farm isn't as bad as I think a lot of people think it is. Like there's still a lot of talent down there. And yeah, maybe it's not as high as it was when, PCA was still technically a prospect. Like these guys are getting to the show. That happens. But there's still plenty of talent down there where the Cubs could get a deal done. Look what they did for Michael Busch. Ferris
Exactly.
was a high level prospect. You had a couple other guys that were kind of that mid range, and it yielded you a player that's absolutely worth it in the long run. I think there's still value there with the Cubs system to make a trade. I think they have to be smart about it because it's going to require guys that are a little closer to the show, which is what their top of the pool prospects consist of, right? Your Kevin Alcantara's, your Owen Casey's, your Moises Ballesteros. These guys have all debuted already. They've
Yeah.
all had a little taste of Major League Baseball. Now you got to figure out what they're worth, and is it potentially to your organization? It's worth giving them a chance with somebody else and acquire something. Kevin Alcantara would probably play every single day for the Miami Marlins if you're having to acquire Edward Cabrera, for example, right? So it becomes the game of, do teams value that enough and do the Cubs value that enough? Do they want to hold on to those guys maybe instead of dealing them away? Again, it's this kind of acrobatic act.
Yes.
Yeah. Try
Acrobatic.
saying that.
Yeah.
Try saying that 10 times fast. That they're going through performing this offseason, Nick.
Heck yeah, no, you're right, and that's what good teams do, right? You evaluate your talent that you have, you decide who can we live without to gain better right now, and then you hope that it doesn't come back and bite you in the ass. That's what happens with trades. I mean, sometimes you lose on trades, but that's the whole point is sometimes they've kind of painted themselves into the corner to your point where they have to go make a trade now. The free agent market, in my opinion, is just dry with starting pitching. You missed on Cease, you missed on a couple other bigger names. Now you have to go make a good trade. And that is where I would focus everything into is pitching. You did lose, a bat, which I would love for them to go and figure out that position. You mentioned Bregman. For me, that would be a guy that I would target because I think he would do really good at Wrigley. But pitching, if nothing else, pitching, because that's what bit you. That's what bit you in the end was pitching. And it was guys that were burned out, pitched way too many innings, and that happens when you don't have a lot of starting. And you had injuries too. That's the other thing. You did have injuries in the starting rotation, and you were able to weather the storm a little bit. But a lot of it had to do with just guys overperforming from what they normally would be.
100%. Shota Imanaga wasn't quite the same when he came back from his injury early in the season. Obviously, Justin Steele, front of the program, never came back because of his injury. And then even Javier Assad took a really long time to work back after a spring training injury. That's 3 critical pitchers that either underperformed or didn't play at all for majority of your season that I think the Cubs are counting on. So I completely agree. Can never have enough depth when it's all said and done. Rad says here, it sounds like they're all in on Shaw, which makes them confused about the smoke with Bregman. I don't know if they are totally all in on Shaw. I think that's just it's a politics thing. I think it's just you say what the press wants to hear. We're committed to our guy, and we're going to be committed to our guy, and we're never not going to be committed to our guy. When they're not committed to their guy behind his back, at least it looks like in the public light that you are. I think it's one of those. I think they're
I
still
agree with you.
kicking the tires very much of saying like, "Hey, we had a tale of 2 seasons with Matt Shaw last season. Are they really? Is he going to keep that up, or can we capitalize on his value now while it's maybe at its highest?" Darren says here, roll the dice, trade for a pitcher with control, buy a bat, hope Horton is the AC showed last year. I think Horton's a huge piece that we are for like maybe forgetting a little bit.
Yeah.
But to your point, injuries are inevitable. Matthew Boyd doing what he did last year is no guarantee again. Shota doing anything close to his first year is far from guaranteed at this point. Like you have a lot of back end rotation guys. I think even if you get a guy that you feel comfortable saying is your third starter in this rotation, I think still goes a long way for the Cubs.
Yeah.
Over 162 games compared to where they were last year.
I agree with you because, like you said, Hortons is a big piece to this because he could be your number one. He really
Could be
could.
that guy.
He could be that guy. So we could be talking all about go get the top line guy. They may already be thinking we have him.
Yeah.
We just do need a third string type of guy to go out there. And yeah, I wouldn't be too upset about it. I would be upset if right now they just stop and they're just like, we're just going to get one or two, a couple more bullpen guys, fill out the rest of the bullpen. Maybe we get a bench bat. Then I'd kind of be upset. I mean, you still got to look at your bench. That's the other, like the bench was horrid last year. Horrid. So.
Yeah, and I think they went out and attempted to address that already.
Yeah.
In the form of Tyler Austin.
Yeah, Tyler Austin, I was going to say. Yeah.
Just a guy off the bench that maybe gives you something. But I really agree with you. I think they still need to find some pieces, and I think they will. I think there's reasons Scott Kingery got a minor league contract this offseason.
Yeah.
Scott Kingery. they're going to try to piece together that bench, and I don't know to what level it's going to be, but they are certainly going to try to piece all of that together. I'm looking, Nick, as I'm digging through this. Obviously, a name that we really haven't talked about the Cubs could pivot to is Zach Gallen, right? And
yeah,
I think that's a name that has gone forgotten. I think a lot of people are just concerned, like, is he going to be the same version of himself? And I think when he signs with a team, I think it's going to be for very little money and very little term. I think it's going to be like
a prove it type of thing.
I really do. I think it's going to be something closer to, I'm going to call it a year. It's probably going to be a 1-year deal. Maybe a 2-year deal. That's probably like what it's going to take to get him is like being willing to give him that second year. Saying, we'll give you 2 years, maybe like a mutual option or a club option for a third year. You're probably looking no more than like 12, 11. Maybe you get him for under 10, but I think it's probably closer to 12.
I'd be comfortable.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. I think if we're talking from a Cubs standpoint, I think a lot of people would be comfortable with that. Again, I think just his stuff is down.
Yeah.
The home run ball's up.
He worries me. He really does worry me a bit if you're going to be spending big money on him. And I don't think he's getting big money, like you said.
But he's durable. And that's the one thing he still is going for him is he's super durable. And that alone, I think after we saw from the Cubs last year, like maybe they say, you know what, if he can give us, if we can work with him a little bit in the pitch lab and he gives us a just above 3 ERA for a majority of the season, but gives you 175 to 190 innings.
Yeah, exactly.
You're for it. That's worth $12 million over 2 years, maybe a team option for like 15 million for the third year if he's still worth it or something. Again, there's a lot of what ifs that's to be said here. Ras says that they think they'd be comfortable with Tyone and Boyd as 3 and 4. I think maybe. And I think there's also too, though, there's an element of this offseason that ties into future years because Tyone and Boyd are both free agents after this season as well. Boyd has an option, but it's a mutual option, and I doubt they're going to pick it up.
Yeah.
So you're realistically looking at those guys on 1-year deals. Shota's on a 1-year deal. So already at least 60% of your rotation is on a 1-year
1 year
deal.
deal. Mm-hmm.
At least if you sign another guy, that way Steele doesn't have to rush back. Cade is the other guy in your rotation at that point. If it is a Gallon or somebody like that, at least next year now you know you're going in with at least 3 guys under contract in terms of Steele, Horton, and maybe it's Gallon, maybe it's Zach Littell, maybe it's any of those guys, right? Of just, oh yeah, you got them at least for a little bit. And maybe you have Jackson Wiggins, right? Maybe that's still a thing, and maybe you go trade for a guy. Who knows? But I think there's something to be said. Darren says if you can get him for 2 years at under 25 million, best do it. I mean, again, we've we've seen that pitching pays. Like as long as you're a able pitcher, you're going to get paid.
Yeah.
I think there's a world though where you can get Gallon for, and maybe it turns into
Cheaper.
15 million.
Yeah.
But like I think if he's really commanding 2 by 25, this pitching market's insane. And there's a reason the Cubs are exploring trading for a guy instead of signing one.
It would make sense if that's the case, honestly.
Pitching's
But
expensive.
I don't know if that's the case because he really struggled.
Yeah, 100%. Hank, good old friend of the program, Hank says here, I'm really trying to be patient with the Cubs, but they're on the back burner until they show me they are really going for it. And I think that's fair, especially with the Bears being good in town. There's excitement around the Chicago Blackhawks to a fault. The Bulls have been playing better as long as they're healthy. They've been playing well. When they were banged up, they've been brutal. But like they're kind of exciting, but they're kind of not. And shit, even the White Sox in town have arguably made more of a splash this offseason.
They've made more of a splash.
Maybe the Cubs have made more moves, right? They've really paid for bullpen pitching. Matone, Milner, Hunter Harvey. Juice called that one like 4 years ago. Hunter Harvey's finally a Cub. You know, Webb was another addition. Like the Cubs have done a lot of that, but acquiring Murakami was a huge get for the White Sox. Yeah. They added Sean Newcomb on a $4.5 million deal, which Cubs legend Sean Newcomb. It's a fun addition for the White Sox. They added Anthony Kay, another Chicago Cubs legend, after a strong year over in Asia. I believe he was in the KBO. So they've done a little less. Jared Kelenic is a sexy name on a minor league deal with the White Sox. Like the Sox have had a more sexy offseason, I think, than the Cubs have. The Cubs maybe have had a better offseason in terms of true value, but I think what the White Sox have done, like I kind of agree. I think the Cubs are kind of the 5th team in the city right now in terms of on the burner.
Right now, yeah.
I'd even make the argument Northwestern's generated more buzz than them because they signed Chip Kelly as their OC. Like
that's so true.
It's one of those off seasons for the Cubs.
One of those off seasons. Tyler predicted it, man.
He did, and I don't think Hank's off basis here at all either. Nick, we're gonna start winding this thing down here. This was just a quick hitter for tonight. Again, I commend those that are in the Cubs space that talk in detail about this. Like it's been a largely quiet offseason, and there's been a lot of like really trying to drum up, conversation and content and things like that when it comes to a variety of players. But I ask you, Nick, do you have any? We got 2 more things on the docket here, but the first one, do you have any predictions for the immediate future? And I say the immediate future because CubsCon is in 2 weeks. And we've seen the Cubs historically, right, over the last couple of years under Jed Hoyer, they usually make at least 1 or 2, like, I don't want to call them sexy moves, but they're kind of sexy moves.
Sure.
Right before CubsCon, right, to kind of drum up the buzz a little bit.
Yeah.
So I turn that back to you. Do you think the Cubs make a move in the next 2 weeks that, like, maybe gives a little bit of a buzz through the fan base, whether it's even an Okamoto, or an Okamoto? I think that's a move that would at least poke some attention. But
I'll tell you what, man, and maybe I agree with Hank a lot because with the Bears and all the other buzz, I'll just tell you this: I am not holding my breath. I've gone to Tyler's side now, where I have a bad feeling about this offseason. And I do feel like with CubsCon coming, I think they're going to lean heavily on CubsCon and announce bigger names of CubsCon before they announce bigger names to the current roster. Just my
Interesting.
prediction. I hope I look like an idiot. I hope we can clip this on a really big move, a really sexy one, and just feel like, look at this idiot right before Cubs.
Look at this guy thinking
Yeah.
nothing was going to happen.
Yeah, but I'm not holding my breath. And partly because what we've gone through is like, where do you go now? You kind of have to make
Yeah.
a big trade. And do they have the cojones to do it? Do they want to get rid of those guys when, what was it? Was it last year? Crane Kenny was talking about 2030 or something with the guys, with the prospects. Like,
Oh,
we have to keep in
yeah.
mind 2020, whatever. So I'm just not holding my breath. I hope I'm wrong, though.
I agree with you, Nick. I really do. It's funny. You and I were doing the exercise before the show off mic of just like who's going to be at CubsCon because we saw everybody saw the Bruce Levine tweet, and it's like, yeah, no shit, dude. None of the current guys are going to be there. They can't be. They're under contract.
Yeah.
So, like, who's really going to be there? And you and I were pitching names back and forth. Rizzo's for sure going to be there. Position player wise, Fowler, Zobrist, like Mickey Montero. Those are probably the big names, right? That are going to be there from that team. Obviously, no Kyle Schwarber, no Wilson Contreras, no Javi Baez, no Chris Bryant. Addison Russell's not going to be there for reasons. David Ross probably won't be there. I don't think he's
Yeah, I don't think David
on
Ross
great
is
terms
gonna
yet
come
with the
in. No, I
organization.
agree with
That
that.
wound, I think, is still a little fresh for
Just
him
a
after
little bit.
being canned.
Yeah.
So realistically, you're looking at like it's a lot of like remember when it was like a lot of relief pitchers, like it's like Justin Grimm and like
Yeah.
guys like that. Do they get some of the sexy pitcher names though? Like are Arrieta, Lackey, and Lester coming back? Kyle
That would be
Hendricks,
cool.
you noted that one.
Yes,
So
Kyle
big credit
Hendricks.
to you. You're like, he's retired now. He's probably going to be there.
He could be there. Jake Arrieta would be cool. Lester would be really cool.
Lester would be
John
really cool.
Lackey would be an interesting guy to have on a microphone.
That'd be electric.
That would be awesome.
Could you
I just
imagine?
don't see Lackey going. I just don't.
I think the best way is Jason Hamill is also there, and you get all five of them on a panel. All five, because that's your World Series rotation. It's all five of those guys.
Yep. Yeah.
And you just say, you guys were here for the World Series. You're like, let's talk. That would be the one thing, in my opinion, worth going to at CubsCon, if that was to happen. So I think it's a hell of a prediction, Nick, that bigger names announced for CubsCon than announced in transactions for the roster. I think you're right. I don't think they do anything before CubsCon. I think if anything is getting done, it's probably right after CubsCon. Like that week after or those 2 weeks after, like before February gets here, I think something might happen. But I think that's where majority of the rest of the moves I think are going to happen. I don't think much is going to try to drag into spring training like in years past. I just don't think there's the high profile guys, and I don't think guys want to wait that long.
No,
I think they just want to get under contract and play ball.
Yeah.
So I'd be hard pressed to think that that's what ends up being the case when it's all said and done. Darren says here Ricketts would hold off making a ball mover for the next 2 weeks if it saved him some dough. Maybe. It really makes you think. Nick, speaking of CubsCon, it's with sad announcement. Cubs on Tap will not be at the Cubs convention. Not at least in totality, like we've been in years past. I believe Rich will be at the Cubs convention. So I believe Mr. Everwine will be there. Highly encourage everybody to go say hello to Rich, chat him up, talk baseball. But I know none of us are going. Joey won't be there. Tyler and I won't, unfortunately, be able to be there. You mentioned that you won't be there. So it's kind of a bummer, I think, for this year of CubsCon. Tyler says he'll miss the little calendars the most. I will miss the crushing beers at the Sheridan bar, watching an NFL playoff game on that Saturday night. Like that's been kind of a tradition over the last few years. It'll be missed. It will be missed. And that Hyatt Regency breakfast will also be missed, by the way.
I have not gotten to experience that.
Dude,
I will one day.
It's electric. If I hope Cubs on Tap gets back to the Cubs convention at some point in the near future. But when that time does come, it's the Hyatt Regency breakfast is electric. It's the best thing out there. It was one of my favorite parts of the weekend. I can't even lie and bullshit with you. It was something I got up for every single week. Or every single year that we have done it. There's this year, Lester, Hendricks, and Rizzo committed. Cool. Okay. I have not been paying attention to the level that I should be either. I've been knee deep in the world of Bears and Blackhawks for most of this offseason for the Cubs. So
Bears are fun, man.
the
Bears
Bears
are
are fun. Bears are fun. We did our first show of 2026 for On Tap Sportsnet today. Q and I doing our O-line review. So this is show number 2, Nick, for the
Let's
2026
go.
calendar year. There's going to be a lot more of these
Oh yeah.
across all of our
Yep.
sports. Nick, I want to turn it back over to you, man. Final thoughts before we wrap this thing up here on Friday night.
This was nice, Ron. This was like a therapy session. I feel much better after we got on this bike on Friday night. I had that itch. I didn't know if I was more positive, more negative. I think I was right in the middle. Now that you've helped me come down to earth a little bit, I just feel like, we're all just waiting for something. We don't know what's going to happen, but we have an idea of the direction it's going to go. But I agree with you. I think it's going to be right before February, maybe even early February, possibly, that something actually goes down for the Cubs.
Agreed wholeheartedly, sir. I'll miss Cubs convention. I miss seeing the Cubs on tap crew this year. Outside of that, man, admittedly my brain is in football and hockey mode right now, and I think Hank put it perfectly. Like this Cubs team right now, I think for a lot of people in the city of Chicago is on the back burner because they haven't done enough. And it's crazy because they just made the playoffs. Like they were in, they were a game away from the NLCS. I mean, this is a team that like had a great season, and then everybody's just like,
yeah,
because just I think so people have such little faith, I think, on where the team is going.
that's
Darren is here, just read Dexter, Hayward, Miggy possible. So we nailed it with Miggy and Fowler. That's right. Hayward is fully retired now, so I would expect Jason Hayward to be there for sure.
Jason Hayward. Yeah.
I forget that he's fully retired now because he was technically, I think, on the Padres roster at some point last season. So, again, keeping up with the roster transactions has been a little tough. So, should be a good one. I mean, there's going to be a lot of good names, and I think that's gonna dominate the convention. There's not going to be anything about what's coming this season, or it's going to be a lot of nostalgia. It's going to be a lot of 2016 celebration, which great. It's worth celebrating, but I think a lot of Cubs fans are itching for another one, and they want to see this team get back to the playoffs again and truly give it a whirl when it's all said and done. Nick, before we get out here, as always, we're reminding everybody that Cubs on Tap has you covered on your Cubs gear, on your Cubs news, all the good shit. Sox on Tap does the same thing for baseball. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks. You know the drill already. Yeah, we've been down this road so many times. You've been listening to the show long enough. OnTapSportsNet.com, at OnTapSportsNet on the socials. The On Tap Sports Network. Go and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Happy New Year to everybody. Hopefully the Cubs do something here in the new year to get us prepped for the 2026 baseball season. Until then, it's bear down. It's let's go Hawks. But forever and always, Nick, what do you say? We get out here the only way we know how Cubs on tap?
Hell yeah. You know what? There's another team that's on the back burner, not just the regular back burner, on a commercial stove back burner, all the way in the back. It's those Cardinals, man. No one's talking about those Cardinals. And that's why we say fuck the Cardinals.
Fuck the Cardinals. They're selling. They're ripping the thing apart. They traded Wilson Contreras. It's just a shit show down in St. Louis. Oh, forever and always, baby. FTC, and let's go Cubbies.